Hi besties, welcome back. They believed that this would never come to light, that the papers would remain locked, that the DNA would be trapped behind the seal of a judge and buried deep in sealed, off-court records. But some truths don't remain silent forever, especially not when they've been employed manipulating love, money, and loyalty for more than a decade. And now Meri is finished keeping her silence. Tomorrow we're entering a courtroom where a family's foundation is shattering in real time, where new facts are tearing apart old vows, where tears are not only emotional, they're evidence, and where one envelope, one test, threatens to turn everything the Brown family built into ashes. So stay with me, because in this one, Horror Breakdown, we're not just telling a story, we're witnessing a reckoning. And by the end of this trial, you'll have to ask yourself, did Kody Brown ever love these women? Or was it all a performance for the cameras? Let's begin. The courtroom wasn't large, but the quiet within it felt infinite. Overhead, fluorescent lights hummed. The state seal shone behind the judge's bench like a warning sticker. This wasn't a TLC soundstage. This was the real deal. Raw, unrehearsed, and for once, uncensored. Kody Brown sat rigidly at the defense table. He was dressed in a charcoal gray suit, but his hands instinctively jerked. His attorney leaned over to him and said something, but Kody didn't react. His eyes were locked forward. 2 rows behind him sat Meri, calm, composed, but her hands were tight around a worn leather journal, one she'd carried for years, and today, for the first time, it wouldn't stay closed. Christine sat to her left. Janelle to her right. They didn't speak, but they didn't need to. This wasn't just Meri's story, it was theirs too. And Robyn, she wasn't sitting yet. The judge walked into the room, gavel in hand. This court is now in session. The room tensed up like an audience waiting for the curtain to go up. But what followed wasn't a performance. It was the revealing of a truth so deep-seated, even the individuals living it didn't even know how manipulated they'd been. The clerk read the formal title of the case, Meri Brown versus Kody Brown Faye for emotional deception, financial deception, and misrepresentation of familial responsibilities under the guise of plural marriage. But what everybody in that room already knew, this wasn't simply about legal terminology, it was about lies. It was about one DNA test that revealed years of manipulation. And it was about a woman who finally declared, enough, before anything else. The judge gazed straight at the gallery. This courtroom will not be turned into a circus. This case has sealed medical reports, emotive testimony, and unreleased financial records. Any disturbance, and you will be removed. Is that clear? She didn't wait for confirmation. Prosecutor, call your first witness. Meri stood, and suddenly the hush was over. Her heels tapped lightly as she walked towards the witness box. She wasn't shaking no longer. Not today. The bailiff stood before her and presented the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. She nodded once. I do. The prosecutor stood before her slowly. No showmanship. Just a folder and a voice like a scalpel. Mrs. Brown, do you remember the date you asked for a DNA test concerning one of Robyn Brown's children? Gasps whispered through the room like leaves through dry wind. Meri didn't blink. Yes. The 14th of July, 2022. Kody's jaw clamped. And why did you have me take this test, Meri? A pause in silence. Then her voice. So clear, a surprise it was like after all these years. Because I needed to know if my loyalty was being played, if the choices being made for the sake of family were founded on lies. She looked toward the gallery, toward Kody, not furiously, but with quiet destruction. And I was worn out from guarding the reputation more than I was guarding myself. The prosecutor pushed an envelope onto the evidence table, sealed, marked Exhibit B, Your Honor. If it pleased the court, we'd like to enter the DNA results into evidence. Kody sat up straight. Objection? His attorney yelled after him. We protest the introduction of unauthorized private medical information. The judge held up her hand like a sword. Overruled. Sit down, Mr. Brown. A silence fell so thick you could hear the room's heartbeat. The envelope sat untouched, at least for the moment. But what was in it? Would it confirm that Kody Brown's story was founded on fantasy, or was Meri manipulating the facts too brazenly? We're just beginning. The envelope rested on the edge of the evidence table like a live wire. No one dared touch it, not yet. But the whole courtroom leaned in toward it. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. Meri sat up straight on the witness stand, her voice firm, her hands now calm. This wasn't revenge. This was freedom. The prosecutor stood again to ask questions. Mrs. Brown, would you describe to the court why this test became necessary all these years later? Meri took a breath, eyes never leaving Kody. Because everything, every choice, every refusal, every financial adjustment was justified in the name of Robyn's children. We were told they needed more, that we had to give up because they were vulnerable. But at some point, it felt like an excuse, a shield, and I needed to know if it was a shield or a sword. Kody blinked but didn't say anything. His lawyer scribbled frantically on a yellow legal pad. Mrs. Brown, the prosecutor went on, do you know who the supposed father is on the birth certificate of the child? Yes, Meri replied, Kody Brown. Do you think that is true? Another hesitation, this one longer. No, she replied. Not after what I've seen. You could sense it. Every shoulder in that courtroom stiffened. Even the judge leaned forward a little. Kody pounded his hand on the table. This is repulsive. This isn't why we're here. My paternity, my family, is not on trial. The judge shifted abruptly in his direction. Mr. Brown, I will remind you one last time, you are not above this court. If you cannot manage your emotions, you will be taken away. Robyn still hadn't come into the room, and her not being here now felt strategic, or maybe afraid. The prosecutor picked up a different folder and held a stack of duplicated pages. Meri's journal presented as Exhibit A. The earliest entry read, Faye the 9th of October 2016. Kody did not come home again. He said Robyn needed assistance. He said her child was having issues and needed her father fully present. But I couldn't dismiss it. There is something he is not telling me. Another entry. Faye, the 4th of January, 2021. Christine questioned me if I paid attention to how similar Robyn's child looked to somebody from her past. I brushed it off. But it lingered. And then, Faye, the 15th of July, 2022. I sent off the DNA kit today. I did it for myself. I did it in silence. If I was in the wrong, I would bear the shame alone. If I was right, I wouldn't be the only one carrying lies anymore. Gasps spread through the courtroom, like ripples from a stone. This wasn't tabloid fodder. This was testimony. This was receipts. The courtroom door opened. Robyn stepped inside, hair pulled back. No makeup. A small black notebook in her hand. She didn't look at the audience. She didn't look at Kody. She looked directly at the envelope, and then at Meri. She walked slowly to the bench designated for witnesses, not yet called. Her presence said everything. Something was coming. Something big. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Is this envelope being submitted with consent from the child's legal guardians? A beat passed. Then the prosecutor replied, We have testimony pending that will establish Kody Brown may not be the biological father. In that case, he may not hold sole legal authority over the test results' confidentiality. Robyn Brown's testimony will clarify her role in that decision. Another ripple of sound in the courtroom. Kody's head snapped toward Robyn. You said we'd never talk about this. You said it was done. Robyn didn't reply, but her eyes, red-rimmed and silent, answered for her. She looked like someone preparing to burn everything down, even if it meant she'd burn with it. The judge nodded. We will adjourn for a 10-minute recess before hearing Mrs. Brown's next witness. But before she could strike the gavel, Meri spoke again, unprompted. There's something else, she said. Something no one ever aired, something the cameras saw but never made it past the editors. She turned slowly to face the court. It's about that child's birth and what Robyn whispered to me when she thought the mics were off. Kody's face drained of color. Objection! His attorney shouted again. Save it, the judge said, voice tight. We'll hear it after the recess. The courtroom buzzed during recess, but no one dared leave. Even the reporters, usually slipping out to feed their networks, remained glued to their seats, knuckles tight around their notepads. Microphones still clipped on. Something was unraveling in real time, and Meri's last words before the break had shifted the tone of the entire room. What Robyn whispered to me when she thought the mics were off. Those words hung in the air like fog, invisible but heavy. Judge returned faster than expected. We will resume. Mrs. Brown, the court recognizes you still have the floor. Meri didn't hesitate. No need for notes. Her testimony was lived, not memorized. It was February 2016, just before the baby was born. Robyn and I were backstage at a TLC shoot, makeup trailers, lights, producers buzzing. I had just complimented her pregnancy glow. She leaned in and whispered, "Just between us girls. Kody doesn't know everything, and it's better that way." Gasps again. But Meri continued, calm, certain. I remember blinking and laughing nervously. I asked what she meant. She said, "He didn't ask about timelines. I didn't volunteer. We're a team now. That's all that matters." The prosecutor turned to the judge. "We'd now like to call Robyn Brown to the stand." The room felt like it leaned forward at once. Even Kody froze. Robyn stood slowly. The black notebook still gripped in her hand. Her heels tapped like a metronome of dread as she approached the witness box. She took the oath. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do." She sat down, eyes darting toward Kody, who refused to look at her. The prosecutor stepped forward, voice steady. "Mrs. Brown, can you confirm Meri's account of your conversation?" Robyn's lip quivered. She blinked hard. I remember saying something like that. I was scared. I wanted everything to work out." "What were you afraid of?" the prosecutor asked. Robyn paused. "Of losing the family, of Kody walking away, of him not accepting my child." Kody shot up in his chair. "That's a lie. I accepted everything, Evrione." The judge banged the gavel once. "Mr. Brown, you are not permitted to interrupt your wife's testimony. Continue, Mrs. Brown." Robyn opened her notebook with shaking hands. This has everything, notes. Things I was told to say, things I was told not to say." She flipped through the pages. Kody said, "We can't go backwards. What's done is done. If anyone asks, just say I was always there." He said TLC needed a happy narrative. The courtroom murmured like a rising tide. The judge raised a hand, silence. Robyn handed over printed screenshots. Text messages between her and Kody, dated weeks before the child's birth. One read, "Kody, he doesn't need to know. I'll be the father either way. But don't give Meri too much detail. She questions everything." Another, "Kody, we need to keep control of the narrative. We're finally the core of the show. Don't let anyone ruin it." Christine, seated in the gallery, whispered to Janelle, "I always knew he was hiding something." Janelle nodded, jaw clenched. "And he used all of us to do it." The prosecutor stepped forward once more. "Mrs. Brown, did you ever suspect that Kody isn't the biological father?" Robyn's voice cracked, but her response was heart, stopping in its candor. I didn't know for certain, but I suspected. And I let him think otherwise." Silence, finally. Meri had spoken from the stand, barely above a whisper. "You let him use that child to control us." Robyn had nodded once. "Yes." The judge banged on his gavel for a recess. This time, even the bailiff looked shocked. The judge's chambers had never been so still. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum less. Evrione had come back from recess, but no one had returned the same. Robyn's words still rang in the minds of everyone seated. "I didn't know for sure. But I made him think otherwise now." The envelope. Exhibit B lay once more in the hands of the judge. It wasn't paper. It was evidence. Evidence of whether this family was founded on belief or deceit. The judge removed the tab from the sealed document slowly. Evrione's eyes tracked her fingers. Kody was white, his jaw locked so tightly the veins in his neck were prominent. Robyn did not lift her head. She gazed at the grain of the wooden witness stand, as if tallying every knot in the oak in order not to fall apart. The paper lay flat. The quiet was shattered with 3 words: "The test confirms." Each breath in the courtroom hung suspended. Kody Brown is not the biological father. The courtroom gasped, not performatively but viscerally, as if delivered a collective gut blow. Christine's hand flew to her mouth. Janelle's head sank. Meri exhaled, not in triumph, not in retribution, but in relief, the kind that only comes when a burden you've been carrying alone for far too long is finally shared by the rest of the people in the room. Kody leapt to his feet, face reddening with anger. This is a setup. That test was false. I never gave my consent. You guys schemed this. His voice broke. Robyn didn't stir. She didn't stand up for him. She didn't even glance his direction. The judge brought down the gavel 3 times. Order. Sit down, Mr. Brown, or get out. He sat. But it wasn't submission. It was shock, because the truth wasn't simply biology, it was trust. And for Kody, that trust was lost. The prosecutor walked up to the stand with a quiet deadlier than shouting. Mrs. Brown, did you ever try to solve this inconsistency with Kody in private? Robyn nodded, her eyes welling with tears. Yes, once in 2020. But he shut it down, said, I don't want the truth, I want the appearance. Appearance of what? Robyn swallowed hard. Family leadership control. That word control snapped something inside Christine. She turned toward the judge. May I speak? The judge looked over at the defense table, then nodded. Christine stood up, voice soft but sure. Kody didn't just lie about that child. He used that child. Every argument, every dollar cut, every silence we were given. It was all justified with, I have to protect Robyn's kids. He said they needed more, that they were delicate. He used them as ammunition. She looked at Robyn. And you just let him, Robyn remained silent, but her hands clenched the bench more tightly. Christine turned back to the judge. And now we know the truth. He wasn't protecting them. He was defending himself. The prosecutor stepped back to the middle of the courtroom. Your Honor, with this affirmation, we'd like to enter Exhibit C, hitherto unreleased production footage. The screen beside the judge sprang to life. A grainy clip, a TLC set in Nyansen Yishiro. A producer's voice from off-gen camera questioned Robyn. Did Kody know from the beginning? Robyn answered softly. Too softly for the show to broadcast. He knows what I told him. Then she glanced at the camera, then down. Cut to black. Christine's breath caught. Meri breathed. They concealed it. For years, the judge hesitated. Then let's see what else they buried. The judge leaned forward in her chair, the heavy weight of the screen's light washing over her face. For the first time during this trial, she didn't simply resemble a judge. She resembled a witness. Because what was on that courtroom screen wasn't just a video, it was a blueprint for lying. The first unreleased clip started to roll. The date in the corner, January Arshasen, Liansening Ishilil. Robyn sat in a kitchen set, waiting for the cameras to start. She was mic'd up but not aware the audio was picking up early. She leaned towards a female producer. I know the timing doesn't exactly align, she whispered, nervously fiddling with a bracelet. But they're never gonna ask. As long as Kody's face is on camera looking proud, they'll believe it. What about Meri? The producer inquired. Robyn spoke softly. Meri knows what she is supposed to know. The screen flickered to black. The courtroom gasped as though physically slapped. Janelle put her hand over her mouth. Christine muttered. She used our loyalty as a weapon. Kody didn't budge. Not a flinch. His lawyer gazed at the screen like he was viewing his client for the first time. The prosecutor walked over to the court clerk and submitted Exhibit D, a printed chain of emails among TLC producers and Kody Brown. Subject line, Episode C, Cut Review. Cut mention of Paternity producer. Kody, do you want us to debunk the paternity rumor on Reddit or just leave it up in the air? Undefended Kody, reply, cut it. The audience accept what they see. Woman, don't give them cause to dig, producer. So, you're saying, not even a denial, undefended Kody. Better to stay silent than to lie, and cleaner than truth. The judge breathed in, slowly. That email in itself justifies this trial to go on past emotional claims, she said. Undefined, this is deliberate misdirection. Robyn sobbed quietly, but nobody scrambled to hug her, though she still clutched the notebook lying across her lap. I wished it would succeed. I thought that if we appeared strong, we'd be strong. Undefined but Kody. He was never attempting to construct a family. Undefined Hay was constructing a shield. A shield against what? Undefined, the prosecutor asked softly, from responsibility. undefined from failure, mouse adapter from acknowledging that he wasn't enough. Meri stood up from the witness stand again. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't require it. He used us like set pieces. Undefined moved us where we looked best, told what he required of the camera, and retreated behind silence when the cameras shut off. She turned to Robyn, not in anger, but in something worse, truth. You let him do this. Robyn, undefined, and now you seek redemption in a courtroom. Undefined, but where was your voice when I wept behind doors for a child I considered family, and was told didn't count? Robyn shook her head, tears streaming. I didn't know how to stand up to him. Meri moved closer. Then don't say you were helpless. Undefined, say you were obedient. The whole courtroom was silent. The prosecutor addressed the judge. We seek leave to subpoena Kody Brown as a rebuttal witness. She has email records which directly relate to Mr. Brown's manipulation of family decisions on false paternal grounds. The judge nodded. Bring her forward. Kody rose, eyes sharp, shoulders steady. He did not only lie that he was a father. Undefined, he employed the lie to dictate our money, our marriage, and our dignity. Kody stood now, not as a background player, not as the wife who smiled through pain, but as a witness. And what she was about to share didn't just implicate Kody's emotional manipulation. It documented it. She approached the witness box with the calmness of someone who had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. She took the oath, then looked the prosecutor in the eye and nodded. I'm ready. The prosecutor held up a printed email, dated October R, Downtoning Yishajo, sent from Kody Brown to Kody and Janelle, subject line. Regarding Meri's future, the courtroom waited, breathless. Kody read aloud. We need to help Meri transition out. She is not growing. She is pulling energy down. The show is better when everyone's on the same page, and she is not. I've spoken with Robyn. We both feel that having her around sends out the wrong message. Gasps rang out off the walls. Kody went on. She is holding on to something that is already past. We must create room for peace, even if it hurt her. Use the kids as the excuse. Use spiritual evolution, but let's give her the impression that it is her decision. The courtroom was motionless. Robyn kept her eyes shut. Janelle stared ahead, lips set, as if she watched a specter glide through the courtroom. He didn't just want Meri away, Kody asserted. He wanted to make her believe it was her doing, that she had moved beyond the family, that she was spiritually imbalanced. But in truth, he simply did not want to be seen as the guy who pushed out the woman who began it all. Meri lowered her head slightly. Tears fell silently down her face. Kody finally snapped. That was a strategy meeting email. We were all being pressured by the network. You all signed off on her as weighing us down. He glared at Janelle, then Kody. Don't act like you weren't in on it. Janelle stood up, calm and deliberate. I didn't want Meri to leave. I wanted her heard. She gazed at the judge. What I protested was the silence. How he shut her out. We didn't act. He did. We just sat, and that is our fault. The prosecutor edged forward. Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown ever accept that he was no longer emotionally attached to Meri? Kody nodded. Yes, in private. No, never in public. He told her she didn't matter, that she'd crawl back when she knew she had nowhere else to go, but then he'd shoot scenes acting as though everything was okay, because the story sold better that way. The crowd gasped. Meri remained silent, but something within her had changed. It wasn't sorrow, it was clarity. Robyn rose abruptly from the witness stand. No one anticipated it. I told him to stop. I warned him this would all come apart. At the judge's wave, she sat or was sworn in again. Robyn stepped to the stand, shaking hands. He said she was dead weight, that she was only good when she was quiet. Who did he tell that to? The prosecutor asked. Robyn glanced at Kody. Then Meri at me. More than once, and I didn't push back. Kody rose again. Her voice now cracked, but her words were sharper than ever. This wasn't just about love. It wasn't even just about a lie. It was about how he took that lie and used it for leverage, to push Meri out, to elevate Robyn up, and to shut the rest of us up. She stood before the court, and we allowed it, and the judge called for a brief recess, prior to presenting new financial records connected to the child Kody professed to support. But as everyone rose, Meri didn't. She remained in place, fingers knitted together, eyes fixed, because now she no longer stood alone in the truth. Any more. It are lies that shatter hearts. And then there are lies that suck bank accounts dry, reroute futures, and leave breadcrumbs in tax returns. What once was whispered behind closed doors now rested in black and white stacked on the court clerk's desk, financial statements not from TLC, not from joint family accounts, but from private LLCs, ones Kody had set up, named, and used to shield behind the guise of protecting the children. One of those children, now deemed not biologically his. The judge called the next witness, Danielle Strickland, court-appointed forensic accountant. She walked onto the stand with a binder in her hand, full of printouts, graphs, and wire transfers. I was assigned to track funds connected to the Brown family's joint earnings, mainly from TLC production payments, merchandise sales, and book royalties, she started off. In the course of review, we found a series of withdrawals totaling $417,000 over a 7-year period that were transferred into private LLCs. Most significantly, one designated as Unity Family Futures, registered by Kody Brown, and co-signed by Robyn Brown. $417,000, Christine called out from the stands. That is what he said we lacked for Maddie's college. Janelle remained silent, shaking her head quite visibly. He informed me we were financially stretched when I sought to inquire about footing the bill for therapy. He explained that all the money was going to Robyn's children. Meri, hands clasped on her lap, didn't budge, not even when the prosecutor produced a printed bank statement. Danielle went on, gesturing to highlighted sections of the exhibit. These withdrawals were always referred to as child support allocations, but there is no legal document of a custody order. And besides, the recipient wasn't a minor, but the LLC itself. And these transfers, were they related to the child established not to be Kody's? The judge inquired. Danielle nodded. Yes, Your Honor, the bank memo justification that Kody provided to the bank clearly read, "To assist my youngest child with Robyn." A child who is now confirmed not to be biologically his, the prosecutor continued. Robyn stood up slowly, without being summoned. Your Honor, I was led to believe they were for a college fund. I didn't know the accounts weren't part of the family umbrella. Kody took care of that. So you signed without reading? The judge asked. Robyn appeared to be someone who'd glimpsed the edge of a cliff she helped create. I trusted him. Janelle rose from the gallery. I asked once why the children couldn't all receive equal assistance. He told me not every child required the same path, that some were part of the brand. She glared at Kody, a quiet tempest behind her eyes. He said, "We have to invest in what sells." And Robyn's children, with him, sold the image. The prosecutor turned to the judge. We now know that image was paid for on the back of deceit. Christine walked to the stand willingly. She clutched a printed message, an email exchange between herself, Meri, and Janelle in August 2022. She read out loud, "This isn't just favoritism anymore. It is financial abuse. He is keeping money in accounts we can't touch. If we question it, we're accused of being disloyal. I don't want to raise my daughters to think that this is what love is like." Christine folded the paper carefully. Meri sat beside her, and for the first time in that courtroom, they nodded. Too little was said. The illusion shattered. Danielle, the forensic accountant, added one final comment. Your Honor, the LLC's secondary beneficiary, the one named in case of Kody's passing, is not Robyn, not any of the other wives. She flipped the page. It's the child, the one confirmed not to be Kody's biological descendant. Meri's jaw trembled. Christine mouthed, "Oh my God!" The judge called for a 15-minute recess, but no one moved because they all knew. What came next wouldn't just shake the courtroom, it would undermine the very foundation of all that they ever knew as family. When court reconvened, there was a silence of a different sort. It wasn't the quiet of deference. It was the silence which occurred when people understood someone they had trusted, had known more than they ever would own. Robyn rose again, but this time her stance was different. No notebook, no crying, just shaking hands and a truth perched behind her lips like a confession eager to break free. The judge waved her ahead. Mrs. Brown, you are still on the stand. Will you respond to straightforward questions regarding your awareness of the paternity of the child and the monetary choices made relative to the same? Robyn nodded, swallowing hard. Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor stepped forward, clutching papers in her hand. Mrs. Brown, did you know there was a possibility that Kody was not the biological father of your child? A pause, a beat. The air thickened, Robyn's voice cracked. Yes, a collective exhale filled the room, but no one spoke. And yet, the prosecutor continued, you allowed him, and the public, to believe otherwise. Robyn nodded again, eyes brimming. He didn't ask. Not directly, he assumed. And I let him. The prosecutor didn't stop. Why? Why let him think a child was his if you weren't certain? Robyn's tone became gentler, but her response cut like a knife. Because he had to believe he was still a good man still, that he was still capable of making something beautiful. He was losing the other wives. He was losing himself. So you gave him a lie to cling to, the prosecutor urged. Robyn blinked quickly, tears falling over. I provided him with something to believe in, because if he had the truth, he may not have lingered. And I could not be a single parent again. Not again, the courtroom hummed. Not out loud, but noticeably. Even the judge seemed taken aback. Christine, sitting behind Meri and Janelle, whispered without moving her head. And that is what we were to him, a stage, a backdrop, a performance, Janelle whispered. We were props of loyalty. And when we did stop clapping, he rewrote the scene. The judge accepted a copy from the prosecutor of Exhibit E, an email from Robyn to a TLC producer in March 2017. Subject line, Episode Pitch, Family Renewal Arc. Robyn wrote, let's make next season about the concept of new life. New love. My pregnancy can be at center. Kody's recentering as a father figure again may be able to ease his reputation among viewers. The prosecutor inquired, did you sell this concept knowing there was doubt regarding paternity? Robyn didn't respond immediately. Then, quietly, Yais. Meri didn't scream. She didn't yell. She simply spoke loudly, and somehow it hit harder than anything else uttered that day. You allowed him to use a child as a weapon against us. And you allowed him to think it was for his healing, but it was always your survival. Robyn turned to her, shaking. I didn't want to break up the family. Meri's eyes didn't flinch. You already did. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, is there anything else this court needs to hear regarding the fraud of paternity or financial participation? Robyn closed her eyes, nodded once. Yes, there is one more thing I never shared. And what is that? Asked the judge. Robyn's eyes snapped open, red, puffy, and glassy. I wasn't the one who thought we should keep it from the child, Kody was. Gasps detonated like gunshots throughout the courtroom. Meri flinched too. He said if the cameras could believe it, so could she. That someday the truth would only confuse her. He told her she didn't have to know. The judge ordered a private chambers hearing for the following morning. Even more because now the deceit wasn't just about DNA or money. It was about a child's right to the truth, and who had kept it hidden from her. On camera and off. By morning the courtroom wasn't just crowded. It was packed. Journalists overflowed into corridors. Muffled rumors hummed like white noise. But within the courtroom, the tension wasn't audible. It was smothering. Because today the court allowed sealed mental health notes from a previous family therapist, one who had worked with the Browns during their plural marriage strain years, notes never intended for public consumption, but now they would be read out loud. And for the very first time, even Kody Brown couldn't keep up with the story. The court clerk summoned the next witness, Dr. Lorraine Bishop, family systems therapist by license, religious trauma, and polygamist family dynamics specialist. She entered in a gray pantsuit, hair styled back serene but serious. Like a person entering a room aware that her words would transform lives. She was sworn in, and then she opened the binder. Your Honor, the following are 3 sets of joint therapy sessions with Mr. and Mrs. Brown, both Robyn and Meri, between 2019 and 2021. The judge nodded. You may proceed. Dr. Bishop started reading the 4th of June, 2019. Kody showed emotional shutdown towards Meri. She was called a drain on the brand. Robyn said nothing during session. The 18th of August 2020, Robyn confessed, "Sometimes I don't know what is true anymore. I say what keeps the peace." Kody says Meri's delusional. "So I treat her like she is," a whispered buzz spread. The 7th of November 2021, Kody said, quote, "If Meri knew the child wasn't mine, she'd weaponize it. Good for her to feel part of things than angry. I have control of that outcome." The courtroom erupted in shock. The judge even looked stunned. Meri didn't weep. She didn't inhale sharply. She just closed her eyes and nodded slowly, as if someone whose suspicion had finally been vindicated, not by rumor, but by a transcript of the man himself. Christine reached out and clapped her hand. For the first time, Meri didn't pull away. Kody shot up. "That is out of context. I told him that in anger, therapy's confidential. It is distorted now." The judge glared down at him, eyes narrowed. "Mr. Brown, these notes were released via a court-approved subpoena, and you signed consent during those sessions." Kody slumped back in his chair, his head shaking. But the court no longer had a care for his indignation. They were hearing his own words. Dr. Bishop turned to the last page. "There is a written statement in the file volunteered by Mrs. Robyn Brown after the 2021 session." "Shall I read it?" The judge nodded. Dr. Bishop read, "I am complicit. I know Kody says things he shouldn't, but I stay quiet to stay chosen. I protect his truth because I fear losing my place. I dread being the sole survivor with no one left by my side." The courtroom was quiet. Even Christine's face changed. No longer merely judgment, there was sympathy. Robyn stood again, no longer behind the witness stand, but before everyone. Her voice broke, but she got through it. "I let the lie live because I believed that if I cultivated it long enough, it would become love. I was mistaken." She glared at Meri. "You didn't deserve the silence." Then at Janelle and Christine, "You didn't deserve to be used as a cover." And lastly at the judge. "I have one final piece of evidence, something nobody's ever seen. It is out of Kody's personal journal. He made me write it. I still have the document." The courtroom came to sudden attention. The judge nodded forward. "Bring it tomorrow," Robyn nodded. "It is the entry where he schemed how to get rid of Meri by playing on her loyalty. There are things a man will do in anger, and then there are things a man schemes, meticulously, systematically, with pen and paper." When the court opened again that morning, the mood had altered. It wasn't tight now. It was vigilant. Because today, Robyn Brown was presenting a document that no one had ever laid eyes on. Not the network, not the sister wives, not even Marianne. It wasn't hearsay. It was a verbatim transcription of what was going through Kody's mind, typed out by Robyn herself. The prosecutor held up a printed page which read, "Family Clarity Draft, Faye 2020T, typed by Robyn Brown, Faye, dictated by Kody Brown." Robyn stood up again. She looked tired but relaxed, a woman who had finally put down something she should never have been given. The prosecutor inquired, "Do you affirm that you wrote this document verbatim, as dictated to you by Kody Brown?" Robyn nodded, "Absolutely." He was moving around the room. "I was on the computer." He wanted to put it down in writing to get the family situation worked out. "Did he know that you saved it?" Robyn nodded once more. "I didn't save it for vengeance. I saved it because I knew that one day someone would ask if we all just let this happen." The judge paused to clear her throat and start reading. The courtroom hung there, like every single soul was with their breath bated, waiting to be freed. Meri is a threat to cohesiveness. She no longer follows the emotional script. She used to be reliable, compliant. But grief makes her hard to direct. She holds on to old dynamics that can confuse the audience. My solution: repurpose her departure as empowerment. Direct her spiritually toward isolation. Have Robyn recommend journaling, withdrawal. Make it seem like self-analysis, not rejection. She can exit with her head held high. And I can keep mine pristine. Meri blinked once, but did not avert her eyes. "Not today," Janelle spoke in a whisper. He strategized her disappearance as if it were a brand memo. Christine's voice was barely above a whisper. He didn't fall out of love. He built her exit like a product launch. The room buzzed. Reporters clacked wildly. The gallery sat agog. Even Kody's own lawyer appeared uneasy. The judge read on. I've worked hard for this image. Robyn aligns with me. The other wives have been distractions. Undefinite the audience is still united. Undefined am going to maintain that, even when reality argues. Zano all truths need to be heard. The judge halted, lowered the paper, looked straight at Kody. Did you utter these words? Undefined. Kody remained silent. He looked down, not in shame, but in defeat. The kind which does not result from people's judgment, but from being exposed at last. The prosecutor returned to Robyn. Why bring it up now? Undefined. Her response was certain and truthful because I trusted him. I thought he was attempting to rescue us. Undefined. But all the while, he was rescuing himself. Undefined. And now a kid is caught up in that, and Meri lost years of her life believing she had done something wrong. She turned to Meri, struggling to keep her voice level. I let him tell the world you were cold, undefined, hard to get to know. Define proper tie ruined, when actually you just threw me away. Meri rose. Not invited. Not urged, but driven. She stared straight at Kody. I gave you everything. Undefined. He believed in you. Undefined. He covered for you. Undefined. And yet, you wrote me out like a footnote. She turned to the judge. I am ready to read my journals into the record. Undefined. And not the groomed ones. Undefined. Actual ones. Undefined. And nights the cameras didn't see standard user faults, the text that got dismissed. The solo breakdowns that I had by myself while they took pictures of group hugs. The judge approved once. We will reconvene at 2 p.m. Undefined. Meri Brown's personal diaries will be introduced as Exhibit G. And just like that, the one woman they had all attempted to silence would now speak loudest. By then, the courtroom wasn't merely a chamber of legal process. It was a sanctuary for truths long buried, silenced, rewritten, and dismissed as too complex for television. And when Meri rose that afternoon holding a black leather-bound journal worn at the edges, everyone in the room, even her co-sister wives, knew this wasn't about evidence anymore. It was about the healing of exposure. The judge nodded to the court clerk. Read Exhibit G into the record. Mrs. Brown, you may read. Meri opened the journal with hands that were only slightly shaking, not from fear, but from the force of memory. Some of these things hurt, some of them are upset. But all of them exist, she explained. She read from the first highlighted page. Kody told me to improve myself, that I was too emotional and too intense to deal with family issues at present. He smiled when he told me that. But there was something about the way he shelved me. It felt like I was being pushed aside politely, such as I was being replaced, but informed that I was being supported. Christine shut her eyes. Janelle wiped at a tear. Robyn looked down, hands folded in her lap. I had attempted to tell Kody how lonely I was, how I no longer felt seen. He said, that's what therapy is for. Not I'm here. Not let's talk. Just outsourcing love like it was a task he no longer had interest in. The courtroom was silent. The judge didn't interrupt. No one did. Meri kept reading. I saw a text on his phone from Robyn. She still thinks you're going to fix this. And his reply, let her think that. It keeps everything flowing smoothly for camera. I didn't tell him off. I couldn't. I just sobbed in the bathroom during group prayer. I bet no one noticed. A gasp came from the gallery. Meri's voice remained unbroken. But not the room. He said our dynamic was off-brand, that if I wanted to be on the show, I needed to get aligned with where the family was going. I asked him what he meant. He replied, you are the past. We're concentrating on the future. Janelle appeared physically sick. Robyn hid her face in her hands. Christine reached out, involuntarily grasping Meri's arm as she read. I thought I was crazy, that I was the one making things worse by being needy. But now I see it. The more I pulled away, the calmer he became, like my absence was a present, and he covered it in quiet. Meri hesitated before reading this one. Her finger stayed on the page, hesitating as to whether or not the world was prepared for what she wrote that evening. Then she started. The 2nd of November 2022, I packed a bag, just a bag, no notice, no photo. I was going to depart quietly, slide away like I wasn't even there. I stayed in the driveway for 40 minutes. I thought of Leon. I thought of the women inside who used to call me sister. And then I considered who I'd become, a prop in a tale I once believed in. She closed the journal. And then I unpacked. I walked back inside, because I didn't want the story to end with me vanishing. Now I understand. Perhaps that moment wasn't failure. Perhaps it was strength and wait for the opportune moment to speak. The judge breathed slowly. Even she appeared as though she'd held her breath. Mrs. Brown, thank you for your bravery. These entries will be sealed from public record. Unless waived, you can opt later. Meri nodded. I want them on the record, every single word. Are you sure? The judge asked. Yes, said Meri, because this courtroom could be the only setting where they're finally not manipulated into a storyline. Months before sitting, Meri directly confronted Kody. Her tone was soft but clear as crystal. I wasn't broken. I was discarded, and the world deserves to know the difference. Kody remained silent, because what does he have to say? Sometimes the strongest words are the ones you can't refute. They say the camera doesn't lie, but on reality television, the edit does. What the audience sees is filtered, smoothed, manufactured. But today, in a crowded courtroom wall to wall, the edit couldn't shield him anymore. Because forensic recovery had revealed two things Kody never hoped to see again. A deleted voicemail. A raw, unaired video clip from a production card drive that somehow, by some miracle, hadn't been erased. Exhibit H and Exhibit I. And the truth. It was going to speak for itself. The courtroom fell silent while the judge nodded. Continue with the voicemail, dated the 14th of March, 2021. A bailiff struck play. Kody's voice rang out through the room, tired, angered, assertive. I am sick of Meri behaving like she is owed something. She got her chance. I don't have time for shattered energy. She needs to get her act together or leave. Either way, I'm not sacrificing the image for her storyline. A second voice cut in. It was a recording from his phone to his assistant. Tell TLC she's not good television anymore. They can cut her scenes. We're moving forward with Robyn-centered content next season. Silence, but only for a second, because after that, all was changed. She did not cry this time. Maybe for her hand trembled. She bit down on her lower lip with her teeth, holding in the history in that tone. The years she'd struggled to remain relevant to smile. To still hold hope that somehow he noticed her. Christine blew out sharply. He told us we were a family, Janelle muttered. He called Meri, the cornerstone. And Robyn whispered under her breath, eyes fixed straight ahead. I remember that day. He returned home laughing. The prosecutor prompted the screen. A scene captioned. The screen flickered. We watched Meri and Kody sitting separately in a darkened living room setting. She was clearly upset, attempting to clarify how she felt left out. And Kody, not knowing the alternate shot was still rolling, turned to an off-screen crew member and remarked, "Let's wrap this. This doesn't fit the narrative." She is tired of crying from the viewers. But do you want to reshoot a better version? The producer asked. Kody shrugged. Just give her a healing arc. Give it the appearance that she is quitting on her own. Then he reclined and added, this isn't a marriage anymore. It is a management issue. The courtroom hummed more loudly than it had all week. One reporter leaned in and whispered, "This is career, ending footage." Christine stood up. That wasn't off. The cuff, that was strategy. Janelle followed. That was branding. That was family values masquerading as manipulation. The judge held up a hand. Order. But even she seemed shocked. Because what do you say after seeing a man rig a family story like a director rather than a husband? She addressed the judge, her tone low but cutting. This isn't emotional damage, it is intentional misrepresentation. And it is financial manipulation. All founded on a paternity lie, an erased wife, and a weaponized reality show. The prosecutor faced the courtroom, and the victims. They were instructed to smile while it went on. Meri stood again, though her voice did not shake. I used to ask myself why I stayed, why I allowed it to continue happening, why I still believed in him, but now I understand. I didn't stay because I was weak. I remained because I hoped. And today, I ceased to hope for him to ever be someone he never was. The judge nodded gradually. We'll continue tomorrow morning with closing arguments and judgment. As the courtroom cleared, reporters swarmed the hallway. But inside, the only stationary people were Meri, Christine, Janelle, and Robyn, all seated, all silent, but no longer controlled by him. There was no shouting outside the courthouse that morning, no churning media frenzy, no humming from the crowd, just a hushed expectancy, the kind that fills the air when something irretrievable is about to be uttered into being. Inside, the courtroom was packed, but still, Robyn sat by himself this time. Christine and Janelle stood on either side of Meri like sentinels, like sisters, like something more than the word wife ever described. And Kody, already seated, already sinking, already stripped of the illusion that held his image together for over a decade. The judge entered and didn't waste time. "We are here today to render a ruling in the matter of Meri Brown versus Kody Brown." Her tone was cold, professional, but each word felt carved from stone. "This case is unlike any I've seen. It was not about a single event. It was about a pattern of deception, manipulation, and the gradual destruction of trust over time," she went on. "We saw testimony not just of emotional suffering, but of strategic manipulation to destroy the voice and agency of one woman while maintaining a false narrative for public eyes." Kody gazed ahead, but the facade was already lost. "This court concludes that Kody Brown did, through constant deception, gaslighting, and abuse of shared power, inflict emotional and psychological harm on Meri Brown." Gasps. Soft ones. Exhaled breath. Meri didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply breathed, for the first time as if she was standing outside the cage she didn't even realize she had been in. "Moving on to financial concealment," the judge went on. "Evidence established Mr. Brown channeled more than $400,000 in funds into private accounts, warranted by falsified paternity and fabricated family histories. This court hereby grants Meri Brown $192,000 in compensatory damages, equal to the family money channeled under false pretenses. The court further issues a permanent injunction: Kody Brown shall not use the likeness, name, or story of Meri Christine or Janelle Brown in any media, documentary, or production without their signed permission." Christine's hand slipped across her mouth. Janelle leaned over and whispered, "It is over." Meri whispered softly back, "Number, it is just starting." The judge addressed himself to Kody. "Mr. Undefined Brown, is there anything you'd like to say?" Undefined, he rose slowly, regarded the women individually, and said the one thing he could think of saying: "You all got what you wanted." But Christine responded under her breath, just loud enough for him to hear, "Number, you finally received what you offered," and that was the last thing he ever uttered in court. The docket was closed by the judge, but Meri stood again, even though her voice was not for the judge, not even the press. It was for every woman who had ever been silenced by love disguised in manipulation. "I forgive him, Undefined, but I will never forget how long I confused survival with love. And I won't keep quiet just to shield another person's reputation anymore. Undefined discomfort was my silence, but my voice is my freedom." The judge nodded. The gavel fell. Court adjourned. The doors creaked open. This time Kody left by himself. No camera crew behind him, no family following, no microphones lunged for his cheek. Because the story no longer belonged to him. It never had. Christine, Janelle, and Meri walked into sunlight collectively. Not as sister wives, but as women who had taken back something more profound than a relationship. Their identity. Robyn left later, slowly, quietly. In the rear, no makeup, no script, just tears, and this time, no one wiped them away for her. Now the truth is out. The DNA spoke. The footage revealed. The journals read. The image shattered. But here is the final question for you. Was this about love gone wrong, or power finally being taken back? Undefined, let me know in the comments. Undefined read every single one.